Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
And good afternoon, everyone. Phil Penarski here with the Wood TV Live Desk. Hope you're all having a fantastic start to your Tuesday. And since it's Tuesday, we are once again being joined by Blake Harms, our favorite Storm Team meteorologist over at News 8. Blake, thank you so much for stopping by once again. Glad we were able to get in touch. And we want to touch on, of course, once again, that amazing weather special that aired last week. You and the rest of the Storm Team put together Dangerous Waters, really kind of emphasizing the importance of staying safe, whether you're going to the beach or boating, anything you're doing this summer. And really, we want you to enjoy yourself, but we also want you to be safe. So talk to us a little bit more about your hand in that, and just kind of, your main focus was, of course, on rip currents and really just beach safety in general.
Yeah, that's right. So we kind of divvied it up between Sarah, Ellen, and myself. So Sarah really focused on what to do if you're caught in a rip current and what you find yourself in that situation, kind of the flip, float, follow method, where you flip over onto your back, float, and then just follow the current until you eventually get out of it. Mm-hmm. Ellen touched on which areas are the most dangerous, and that Ottawa County is seeing some of the most beach rescues of any county in the Great Lakes because of Holland and Grand Haven both being very popular beaches. And on top of that, the pier on Holland is on the south side of the beach, and in Grand Haven's on the north side. So you can have dangers in that county from multiple wind directions. So there's that aspect. And I touched on the Coast Guard and what their response looks like. They're always out searching the waters, both by boat and by air. And obviously when they get a call of someone in distress, the time is of the essence. So kind of learning a little bit more about their quick response.
Mm-hmm, right. Now, and those three parts, all tied in beautifully into the piece, at least I felt like. And I want to encourage everybody else that haven't had the chance to really check out the special. You can find it right now on woodtv.com. It is incredible, and of course, very timely considering everybody's heading out to the beaches. And we, as I mentioned, want everybody to stay as safe as possible. But Blake, one of the things I did want to touch on was the rip current kind of aspect and trying to stay safe with that. In the article, there's a pretty shocking fact that I really wanted to kind of hear a little bit more about, kind of your perspective on it. It's, just how dangerous these getting trapped in a rip current, how fast they're moving. They move faster. The analogy was faster than Michael Phelps swims, and that just kind of blew me away.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and there are some beaches where you have multiple threats. So at a place like Grand Haven, you have longshore currents, which flow kind of parallel to the shore. You have rip currents, which kind of pull out into the deeper water. And then you also have structural currents, which run along the pier. So there are multiple kind of dangers at some of these beaches on rough beach days that could present so many challenges for folks, and some that they may not even be fully aware of. It all gets clumped into the whole rip current idea, but there are multiple different types of currents, and as you mentioned, some of the rip currents can be incredibly strong, especially on days obviously with high waves, and that can present a danger where even the most experienced swimmers can have a hard time recovering from without taking the proper precautions.
Yeah, and what kind of leads into these rip currents and the beaches in general along Lake Michigan kind of being so dangerous? Is it that it's kind of hard to prepare for a rip current? They're kind of hard to see until you're kind of caught up in it? Is it the fact that there are just so many people out there at any given point? Is it just a culmination of a whole bunch of different factors?
Yeah, I think it's a culmination. When I interviewed the Coast Guard, the officer in charge, Mark Moore, brought up a great point that the wave period here on Lake Michigan is much faster than that of the ocean, where obviously it's a smaller body of water, so there's less time to kind of recover from a wave, and everything just moves faster, and that's really all it comes down to, and that's what makes it so dangerous, is you can find yourself in a really tricky situation and not a lot of time. And that's what makes it challenging. As you mentioned, the beaches are also very popular, so there are a lot of folks out. And again, maybe you don't necessarily think of Lake Michigan as being a dangerous place to swim, especially out-of-towners who come in to enjoy the lake for a week during the summer or whatnot. Many of us here in West Michigan are familiar with the dangers, but there are some who aren't, especially those who come out of town. So I think it's multiple angles that certainly make it a challenge here on our Lake Michigan shoreline.
Right, and you touched on it earlier, but just kind of recapping what your part in the story, your Sarah and Ellen's part in the story kind of were just about, trying to stay safe in the rip current. So I do have a two-parter question for you, Blake, and kind of all emulates that same saying, we just want everybody to stay safe. Before we let you go, if you're caught in a rip current, there is a way to kind of help you out, not to panic, obviously. Yep. So touch on that a little bit, and then also your part of the piece really dealt with the Coast Guard. What is the Coast Guard kind of doing out there to help everybody stay safe on the beaches?
Yeah, so the first thing is what Sarah kind of learned is that the flip, float, follow method, where you get caught in a rip current, they advise you to flip over onto your back and float. And as the officer in charge for Coast Guard Station Grand Haven told me, if you're floating, you're surviving. So as long as you're staying above water, you're doing about as well as you could in that situation. And then you obviously, again, keep floating, and then you follow the current out, and eventually you get to a point where the current kind of falls apart, and then at that point you can hopefully get to some safer water. Now the Coast Guard obviously plays a tremendous role in water rescues and patrolling. They are in coordination with the DNR, with all our local municipal and county officials, fire departments, EMS, police. And so there's actually something that's interesting. There are what are called area markers now on the beaches. So they're numbered, they're on red sign, then also have the rip current information and the life rings on them. That basically is at periodic points down the beach. So if someone calls 911 and says, we've got a swimmer that we've lost in the water, they know they can pinpoint it to a specific area sign, so they know exactly where on the beach to look or where along the beach to look. So they're not trying to search the entirety of the beach. So it just makes the response that much faster, and hopefully gets emergency responders to that swimmer before it's too late. And I think it's been a big game changer for them out on the beaches.
Right, absolutely. And again, I do want to remind everybody that if you haven't had the chance to check out Dangerous Waters, it is the latest weather special courtesy of Storm Team 8. I highly encourage you to do it, especially if you're planning on heading out to any sort of waterfront over the rest of your summer break. Blake, once again, thank you so much for stopping by the live desk. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody else for tuning into this latest edition of the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm Phil Penarski, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.